Hello and welcome along to Clare FM's Sideline View. It's Derek Lynch with you for the next hour. Coming up on the show, we will look ahead to Clare's final group game of the National Hurling League when Wexford come to Ennis on Sunday, and St Flannans are bidding to bridge a 20-year gap since their last appearance in the Dr Croke Cup final. We hear about Clare GAA's latest recruitment drive for referees. We look ahead to another busy weekend of handball. We'll preview the opening games of the FAI Junior Cup, and we will have Greyhound Focus too. So Clare round out their National Hurling League group stage campaign this weekend when Wexford come to Zimmerby at Park Yasog, and Clare 5 from 5 so far. We'll look ahead to the game in just a moment, but we'll get the views of Colin Ryan now in an overall sense, Colin, on this league campaign. Victory is obviously the main part of it, but I suppose they'll be thinking about a lot more than that.
I think the performance levels have been good throughout the league. I don't think there has been any point where they've dropped off massively. You can see that there's seems to be a lot of changes to personnel every week in, week out. Brian has given a lot of lads a chance, but Clare are just doing what they have to do. And Wexford is a good game now, kind of coming towards the end of the league, where you're coming up against Liam McCarthy opposition. They're coming up; they'll want to win. Obviously Clare are looking towards a league final, which means you're going to have another good game in another couple of weeks. So it's while it's not the most ideal preparation for Munster Championship throughout the whole league, Clare have done what they're done, but they're finishing out with a couple of strong games against strong teams where they can kind of ramp up and maybe secure a 15 that they're comfortable with going into the first round of championship. And that's, I think, where they're at this point. They've had a lot of injuries and a lot of stuff going on. They've unearthed, a few lads that may be up to it. But the litmus test will be the first round of the Munster Championship and seeing, who's able to contribute from the first round, because there's no hiding place when it comes to that.
How hard a balance can it be to strike between giving a fella his chance but making sure that there's an experienced head beside him? Like, take the last night in Dr Cullen Park, in comes Jamie Moylan, but alongside him in the half back line is Davy Mack and Cathal Malone, two brilliant leaders, two brilliant guiders.
Yeah, I think it's actually been one thing that the Clare management have been really good at this year. You can see that they started John in a game with Niall O'Farrell beside him. They've obviously started Davy Mack there. They've had Tony in the forward line sometimes. And obviously whether it's an injury or whether they gave him a rest last week, they've had Mark Rogers there constantly. Dave Reedy comes in to bring a bit of experience, but then you've Shane Meehan and you've Sinan Dunford in around the place. I think they've got a nice mix. You've obviously Ryan Taylor playing midfield with Dermot Stretch behind him beside him the last couple of games. I think they've mixed it up really well. There's kind of a couple of lads getting experienced players getting game time into their legs, but they're not necessarily being counted on week in, week out. So it is making the other lads stand up and be counted and fill in a few spots. And I think the Clare management have done it really well. But you can plan all these things out. I think the plan has been really good. But undoubtedly, it'll be the first round of the Munster Championship when people will say yes or no to whether this was a good experience or not for Clare.
Yeah, and I suppose the selection of Niall O'Farrell at wing back caught a lot of people by surprise, because we know how heavy a scoring forward he has been for Broadford and underage for Clare. And then, like, Ronan Kilroy, sorry, they kind of made fools of all of us, because we were talking when he was coming on the pitch about how he's a busy middle third player, and all of a sudden we saw him coming in for Conor Cleary the day he made his debut. So they're not afraid to throw lads into unfamiliar areas either.
No, and I think, if you look back at historically, Brian kind of did that with Jack O'Neill as well. They did it with Aidan McCarthy. I think wing back is a good solid foundation for somebody coming onto the field, and good ball players really in your backline is what you want. And you can see there with Dermot Ryan going up the field the last couple of years and being such a scoring trait, somebody like an Niall O'Farrell could do the very same. So I think they're looking to see what options they have in different places, because when Davy Mack or when John Conlon have been injured in the past, and especially maybe Cleary, we haven't had a lot of options maybe for those positions. So I think they've been looking at maybe where the holes are that we need to fill, and trying to see, can we get lads that can fill those if injuries or personnel changes need to be made.
From what you've seen or read or heard so far, what do you think are the positions that are still up for grabs?
Oh God, I actually think if you sit down to pick the Clare team right now, with 5 people, you'd have 5 very different teams. And I really do. I think there's probably a half forward spot up for grabs. There's probably an inside forward line up for grabs. There's probably another midfielder. The partner to probably Ryan Taylor, or definitely an option coming off the bench. There's probably a wing back spot and possibly a cornerback spot. I would say there's probably somewhere, every line of the field looks competitive at this point in time. So, the players will be looking at that going, there's opportunities for me. They really seem to be building, and I think we're getting the fruition of maybe all those underage players coming through now that have really good S&C programs throughout. So the likes of a Jamie Moylan and Niall O'Farrell and all these lads, Jack O'Neill, are all ready to step up to the athleticism needed at intercounty hurling right now.
And I know you're mentioning there about it not maybe in terms of the level of opposition coming into Munster Championship, but like from a mindset perspective, and Brian kind of said this the last night, they're now on a run of winning games compared to what it would have been 12 months ago. And if you look at Waterford's trajectory in the league, not going great, lots of question marks after the performance again the last day. Could momentum be a big leveller by the time that comes around?
Yes, for sure. And I think the one thing about Clare's performances in this league, and this is what's kind of heartening for me, is that they've kind of gone about their business without any real drama. There hasn't been really a game, bar the Dublin game, maybe, where they were unsure of winning the game. A lot of them were good performance. They pulled away when they needed to. They came out of there and they kind of went, yeah, job done. Let's move on to the next one. Sometimes when we were caught back there, when we went back to 1B a number of years ago, historically, like I remember going up to Antrim and we drew with them. And we were like, and you're coming out of there and you're feeling like absolute crap and momentum is down. I remember going to Carlow, we were lucky to win the game. Performances were poor and you're going to these places. But Clare have gone in, they've done their business and they've got out of there. They've got their work done in training and they seem to be building momentum and the confidence seems to be high and competition for places is really high, which is obviously a really, really important thing.
But also having seen the country, like going to places like Cushendall, lovely spot, Carlow, a wet Newbridge, all the rest of it, does it make you then value a sunny day in Thurles a little bit more?
Sure, of course it does. But you know what, in your hurling career, like going to places like that, I have fond memories of going to places like that and the bit of camaraderie that you would have, going into, especially going up to Antrim. We don't get enough opportunities to go up to such a hurling, stronghold historically, in terms of its history and everything else that goes with it. So it is a really good experience. I remember going to Down as well. They're different experiences for these young players, and they're probably experiences they would never have had growing up with underage hurling, probably playing most of the Munster teams around. So I think it builds a bit of a bit of culture within the team. They realise maybe how important it is to those areas, and when they come back, then they're hopefully ready for the Munster Championship. But I can imagine at this point in time now, every player has their eyes set on the first round of the Championship.
And a lot of people have been maybe surprised that we've seen so much of what we would call maybe the established players. And it's interesting to get your thoughts on this as a free taker from a Mark Rogers perspective. We were trying to think about it. Myself and Tommy have seen a lot of road now this year in that Clare FM car, and we were talking about it coming home from Carlow the last night. Probably seen him hit between 50 to 60, if not more, frees. We couldn't think of more than one or two that he had missed. So his confidence is up. But just the fact that he keeps being selected, is that nearly more about the movement that's needed within the other 5 forwards when Mark goes out to put whatever part of the field to take a free, so that everybody knows where they have to fill in the gaps for the puck out that's coming?
Listen, it's something I've been kind of harping on about for a number of years. Clare really needed, a consistent top-level free taker that's probably guaranteed of his game. I think Mark is getting to that stage of his career where, he should be lasting the 60 minutes. And for him to get all the league now with that experience behind him is going to be absolutely brilliant for him, because he'll go into the Munster Championship knowing he's the first choice free taker, knowing that it's on his shoulders, knowing that he's able for it, and just having the confidence to go with it. So I think it's invaluable to our team to know that Mark Rogers is our free taker, and and I think it's something that maybe in the last number of years has been a small issue for Clare. They've missed a couple of frees here and there when maybe they changed over their free takers, or maybe when somebody wasn't playing. And I really do think that you every top intercounty team has their top free taker, and then you have your couple underneath that. Obviously, if somebody gets injured, but he needs to be number one. He needs to be playing a lot, and he needs to be hitting frees in competitive action a lot.
Yeah, and then of course we'll go with confidence. The game against Wexford then, like Brian Lohan makes no apologies for it. He wants to keep winning games. He's especially proud of winning games in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. So do we expect another all-out assault here in terms of the first 15?
Yeah, I think so. And I think maybe he'll be wanting to test lads up against maybe a stronger opposition with Wexford. So lads will get a chance. Be kind of the last real big litmus test, I suppose, before maybe they earmark the team for the Munster Championship, in a league final. So there'll be a couple of lads probably with opportunities. A couple of lads will get a run off the bench, but I do think Clare are probably building a bit more of a depth in their bench as well. That maybe we can bring on, and if a John Conlon doesn't start, can you imagine John coming on, to the field when needed? So, like, you could possibly see a return of Shane O'Donnell coming in the next couple of games as well, playing a bit more action. So, like, I think Brian is just going to go for whatever they think is best for the first round of the championship and seeing what minutes they need to get into the legs of players and everything else. But currently, I see them thinking nothing but, trying to win in QC Park, trying to keep building momentum and maybe, get a league title along with it. And, that's probably the best preparation that they could have asked for going into a Munster Championship. It's all they could have really done.
And also the way it has worked out, like Wexford are coming up needing to win, so for sure and certain Keith Rossler is going to have his crew driven them into coming up the road.
Yeah, and you could see Wexford's attitude even against Dublin the last day. There's a bit of aggression and a bit of fight and everything in it. So, I can imagine they'll bring that up to QC Park on the weekend, and Clare will have to match that, and it'll be great preparation for the league final and going forward.
Just if I can, Colin, a word before we go, because we're going to be turning very shortly to talking about St Flannan's versus Presentation College Athenry. Wouldn't it be fantastic over the next couple of weeks to be talking about a Clare team going to Croke Park for a college's final, led by Bugler?
Yeah, of course. Listen, Flannans have been doing really well in recent years. They've been bringing through a lot of players for Clare hurling. No better man than Bugs to lead them, and obviously along with the coaches that are in Flannans. So, like, they're putting a lot of time into them. One of the things I would have always said is, does the calendar need all these players to be going back in again? After losing a Munster Championship, but it is a great experience for players to play more schools hurling with lads that they may never play with again, or they may play Clare hurling with again. So, like, all these top quality games are really good for them, but they will have a tough game in the semi-final. But it would be a fantastic achievement if they could get to the Croke Cup final and go and try and get a bit of silverware, because you don't often get the chance in your school's career to go and do that. Yeah,
and look at the form from last year's semi-final for Athenry hasn't worked out too badly. There's a certain Rabbit and Nyland that have shown at senior level what they're able to do. So while they'll be disappointed with that loss, that was a quality team as well. Like.
Yeah, of course it was, and them lads can, you can see that they stepped up to senior hurling very, very, very quickly. Galway will be using those two throughout the championship this year, and to have that quality in up against you last year, you can see the levels that they were at. But it comes down to their preparation and their attitude on the day. And Flannan seem to have built a big a panel to go with it, where they have options and stuff like that. Obviously, they're dealing with the loss of Derek Kennedy there at centre back, and they seem to be doing that okay. But it's loads of players seeing loads of competitive action. It's probably good preparation for even the Clare 20s, where all these lads are going to hurl with each other again.
Yeah, exciting times ahead, that's for sure. Colin, thanks for joining us there. And speaking of St Flannan's, that's where our focus now shifts as they go to Kilbeaconty tomorrow afternoon to face Presentation College Athenry for a place in the Dr Croke Cup final. That decider is set for St Patrick's Day in Croke Park, something manager Brendan Bugler feels will be a massive target to aim for.
It's a massive incentive, I suppose, heading into the weekend. It's rare, I suppose. Clare hurlers get the opportunity to play in Croke Park, but look, it's a huge carrot, it's a huge incentive. But I suppose that's the outcome. We just have to focus on, I suppose, the process and working on our own performance and hoping that we deliver a real good performance that will see us get to Croke Park. But look, as I said, it'd be great for Clare hurlers, for Clare players to get that opportunity, because, as I said, they're few and far.
And as you say, though, a massive task ahead of that then. A lovely little ground in Kilbeaconty. May not be quite Croke Park, but the views out over towards East Clare are as lovely as anything. This will be a huge occasion.
Well, yeah, we'll look at our full focus is on this now ever since the Harty final, and with the goal of getting to Croke Park and going a step further than that. And we were lucky enough the last day against Kilkenny CBC. But look, as we did enough to overcome that game, and it's just, look, at the boys are really looking forward to this. They see it as a great opportunity, a great chance, and but they know they're not stupid, and they know that they need to be a lot better than they were the last day to get the opportunity to play in Croke Park. But no, it's a big occasion, and it's going to be held in a really good pitch in Kilbacon, a nice stand, and no, it's a great venue for a match like this.
And in terms of character, like, it takes a lot of character to come back from a disappointing final loss. It takes even more to dig in the last 5 minutes and get those late goals the way the lads did. So, like, that was hugely pleasing to see, I'd say.
It was, and we kind of knew that. We knew that it was always going to be a huge challenge. That Kilkenny CBC team was a real strong team, with 6 or 7 Kilkenny under-20s in their ranks. So, look, it was about going down to Banshee and getting the job done and getting to an All-Ireland semi-final, and we done that. But there were huge aspects of that game where we've learned from, because it just wasn't good enough, I suppose, at this level. And you really have to be on it at this level. If you're to get to any All-Ireland final, you need to really perform in an All-Ireland semi-final. So look, we've shown character, I think, right throughout the year, from the very first game that we would have played back in October against Nina, coming from 11 points down. There's been lots of games where we've been really questioned throughout, maybe haven't performed as good as we would have hoped, but we've come through due to that character and that resilience. And looking at any team that you're involved in, that's a huge trait to have. And
I know that there's obviously a turnover every year and all the rest of it, but still in all, there'll be a lot of familiar lineups, shall we say, from the two teams that would have met in Gort last year. So a nice little bit of revenge on the line at the same time.
That's a game that it was there for the taking for us. We performed really well in the first half, and look, they got on top of us in the second half, and I suppose we just didn't have enough time to reel them in at the end. But that was a really, really good Athenry team, and we've seen them this year in the Connacht final, and they were really impressive against Loughrea as well. So they're a good team with a lot of really good players little right throughout their ranks, and we have a couple of lads ourselves that were at that stage last year, and they know it's so hard to get to this stage. So when you do get that opportunity, you're really going all out to hopefully take that opportunity. And as I said, it's a big game for. I think it's a big game for Clare hurling. It will give a huge lift to underage hurling in Clare to see the St Flannan's team, run out in the field in Croke Park. It's 27 years since that happened. Since any Clare school team, I think, ran out in the field in Croke Park. So it's a huge day. It's a huge occasion for the lads. But as I said, our focus isn't on the outcome; it's on the process. And we know ourselves that we have to be really on it to beat this Athenry team.
It's interesting you say that about the Clare aspect to it, because I remember talking to you after the Tulla game in the park, and you said exactly that this is a great day for Clare hurling to have two teams in a Harty semi-final. Like, in a county sense, what a positive couple of years it's been.
Yeah, I think it's really important to have the school hurling going well, and it is in a good place at the moment. And it's been backboned by what's happening with the development squads as well, and it's just important from a Clare hurling perspective that we do have school teams compete at the latter stages of these competitions, be it Harty Cup, be it Croke Cup, and it's just so important that it's taken seriously, and that people respect the fact that it is a really important competition for these players and in their hurling careers, because they don't get too many opportunities like this. But from a Clare hurling perspective, to see a Clare school competing at this stage is massive, and the guys know that, and they know I suppose the importance of getting to an Ireland semi-final, and hopefully getting to an Ireland final, and what it does for their own clubs and their families and the pride that comes with that. And it's all really important. It's just important for Clare players to be playing at the latter stages of these competitions and hopefully winning them.
And I know it's only half an hour up the road, and it's a busy weekend for people going to hurling matches, but with your other hat on, you've seen loads of Clare support around the country for the seniors. It wouldn't be brilliant to have a packed Kilbacon stand with Flannan support on Saturday?
Yeah, we'd only love to see it. Like, the Clare supporters are brilliant to drive on. I suppose any team that's representing that's representing the county. And at this stage, we are representing the county, so we'd hope to see a load of Clare sport up in Quebec at the RHA.
If I can keep that Clare hat on you for just one more minute, because obviously it's a busy weekend for yourself, albeit thankfully a home-based one for once. Maybe there's been a lot of road seen, but rounding out this league campaign on Sunday with promotion secured, a very pleasing couple of weeks.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Look at one of our goals at the start of the year was to get back up into Division 1A, and we went about our business, I think, reasonably well, and we've got the results, and we're back up there, and we've seen plenty of guys getting opportunities as well, which is really pleasing, and lads performing, and it's kind of cranking up now to championship preparation, and we've big game the weekend in the park. We've only had, we've had Dublin and we've had Down, and it's important that we put our best foot forward and we deliver performance, and we want to keep winning games, and that's really important. And we've 2 games before the championship, and we're looking for two real good performances to lead us into championship.
And a real positive on that would be that not only have lads got their chance, which this management team have always done, they've always been given their chance, but each and every one that's been given their chance this year have taken it and put in big performances. So picking a 26 for Waterford is going to be a fair headache for you guys.
Yeah, look, it's a good problem to have. Absolutely, it's a good problem to have, and look, Clare have really, really good players, and the attitude of the players, the attitude of the group is hugely positive, and it's just important that we're keeping guys, I suppose, injury free, and when lads are available, you can really, really have real quality in-house games, 15 and 15, and that's where lads are putting their hands up, for inclusion in the weekend, and it's great. You need that competition. You need that real competition for, panel members driving on the first 15 and lads that are going to come on as well. So it's massively positive, but the attitude is really, really good, which is the most important thing.
The views there of Brendan Bugler ahead of both games this weekend, both of which you can hear live here on Clare FM. So indeed, really looking forward to what is an action-packed few days ahead. More to come here on the show, though. Do stay tuned. Now you're welcome back to Sideline View here on Clare FM, where I'm delighted to be joined in studio by Clare GAA referees Administrator Rory Hickey and Inter-County referee Chris Maguire of Wolfstones Nashona. Lads, thanks for coming in to have a chat with us. The basic premise of your chat, I suppose, Rory, is to call out for new members of the cloth, as it was once described to me by Michael Talty, a man that has been wearing the cloth for many, many years. The new referees course underway, or about to be launched anyway. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I suppose it has been a week of discussions within Clare GAA referees circles. Thankfully all sorted now, and games going ahead the weekend and all the rest of it. But you might just give us a quick rundown, I suppose, of how things happened and how they played out.
Well, it's easy to give you a rundown. It's something really that we review every year. And it's just that the timing this year was a little bit off, and discussions went back and forth for a little bit, and by the time the refs got to meet with the county board, until they got themselves sorted out, they weren't prepared to take on games the weekend. And for me, probably the only disappointment was a couple of those minor league games weren't taken charge of at the weekend. We could have taken, in fairness, we could have taken charge of those and discussed it after. But look, it's done now. It was sorted out on the following Monday. It's pity it wasn't done on the Friday or maybe the Thursday, but that's the way it panned out. A couple of the games didn't happen, and it's done now. Everyone's happy, and thank God we're here to discuss getting new guys of the cloth, as you say, and we move on.
Absolutely. I suppose it does highlight, though, Rory, we've often heard that cliche thrown out in many lines, no ref, no game, and I suppose that is what came to pass at the time.
Well, it is, yeah, and we didn't have lads to fulfil the fixtures of the weekend, which I've said, was a little bit regrettable, but it just goes to show within GAA circles how important these guys are. The man on my right hand side and all his colleagues, we love it. Derek, lads like you and me now are spectators now. We absolutely love it. We love going to our club games that start away this evening, and if the ref doesn't show up, there's no game. That's how important these guys are. It's important for Clare GAA to look after these guys, and I'm happy now that I'm long retired to sit in the middle and kind of mediate between both sets of parties, and thank God everything came to a good outcome. Everyone's happy and we move on.
Absolutely. Chris Maguire, referees have an awful lot to deal with in recent years in terms of rule changes. I know you're well ensconced in the football ones now. The hurling ones have come to pass with that dissent rule and all the rest of it. How much has it changed the game from a referee's perspective?
Oh, massively. If anything, God, we see dissent is really dramatically dropped. I think Croke Park said last year alone that red cards, yellow cards, all depleted massively last year in across our county games, and even from Clare GAA last year, the club championship, it ran very smoothly. I would say there was very little disciplinary means, if even red cards last year from a football point of view. And now, thankfully, hurling is coming across and they're joining the party now.
Has it made it an easier game to referee?
It's definitely easier to handle, I would say, from a referee's point of view. There's less, if a free happens, there's less hanging around because the game is back in with that solo and go now, which is great. I don't think there's much dissent really coming in. Maybe in the club game a little, but it is going to disappear very quick because 50 metres is massive now in a game of football.
Just on a club perspective, because you've been around the grounds in the county and you've seen them all. The wire is very close to the sideline. Has there ever been instances where...
Or the sideline is very close to the wire.
Yes.
Can it sometimes be difficult to discern what ex-mentor said rather than what ex-supporter said, or has that ever come into play?
Yeah, I suppose from our point of view, we try and tune that out as much as possible. A high tolerance we really need. But obviously if it goes over the line and we know what's coming from a management, then we're going down the line of a yellow card and possibly a free in the 20 metre or a 2-point opportunity, which is massive now for your team. So team managements I have seen last year have really, they've gotten on the side of the referee and saying if it's a free, just let it be a free. No, don't shout into the referee. Chance of 50 metres.
And I've heard a couple of players saying as well that there's no time to kind of whinge and moan now, because as you mentioned, the solo and go, if you're standing up having a go at yourself or Quinn or whoever it is, your man has gone 15 yards with the ball and you're chasing his shadow. Yeah,
exactly. It's just constant go now, and especially with the stop clock and the hooter. You don't have the time to mess around anymore, whereas you're waiting, you're thinking there's going to be added time. There's no added time anymore. It's just like free, solo and go, gone. We're back into play again. There's very little hanging around now, which is great.
Rory, recruitment always important, obviously, because the likes of Chris and Niall Quinn and Niall Malone and these lads, they've shown a progression path, I suppose, through to national panels and all the rest of it, but you're looking for the next newbies to come in. Give us some of the facts and figures, because I saw a quote from you in terms of how many clubs in the county are providing referees, and it is quite low.
Yeah, everyone loves a couple of numbers, Derek. And just to give the people listen a couple of numbers, last year in Clare in 2025, there was 445 adult championship games. There was 560, would you believe, adult league games. Underage hurling 590, underage football 448. The under 21 games that happened at the end of the year, there was 81 of them, and that's not to talk of Camogie and LGFA games that were still pulling from the same pool. So within the county, the guy beside me and his colleagues make up 45. We've 45 GAA referees. As we all know, there's 53 clubs in Clare. And there's 21 of those 53 that supply no referee at all. I mean, there's numbers for you, but that's a staggering figure. 21 of those clubs supply no referee. I know, look, from going to my Munster meetings and meeting the other administrators from other counties, that they're talking about putting a levy on clubs now that don't supply a ref. And I think there was talk of that in Clare a couple of years ago when I was reffing, but that maybe you lose home advantage for league games and stuff. Look, and it's not a road you really want to be going down, and that's why we're having a big push this year to try and get some more men of the cloth and get some more men and women taking up the game. Like, if you think about it, and I've heard it as a referee, and now even involved in my own senior football team at home in Ennis here, I give a hand there, and everyone's screaming at the referee, but it might be his third game of the day, and people are saying, oh, he's not reffing well in this, but yeah, it might be his 6th hour dressed as a GAA referee that Saturday or that Sunday. So like, we want to try and take the burden off the likes of this guy here beside me. He's an inter-county career to look after as well, so we're looking to get new people in all the time. As Chris has outlined there's new rules now. It's fantastic to watch. And Derek, how many times do we sit above in the booth across the road here in Cusick Park and try and make a good game out of a maybe not so great football game? And we did our best in a lot of times, but the new rules are in now. It's an exciting game to watch. It's even more exciting to referee. You don't have time to be thinking about, did I do this, did I do that? The game moves on quickly. I mean, I was lucky enough to be 20 years standing as a GAA referee for Clare GAA, seven senior finals to be part of, and they're the best days ever. I mean, bar getting married now and my kids being born and stuff, they're standout highlights for me, and that can be for anyone listen here this evening. If you think you're number 23 on that junior team, or you're coming to that age, 32, 33 years of age, you're not able to make that team. Well, it is if you're playing senior football or hurling, you're not able to make that team anymore, and the legs are good. And you're really into your hurling or your football. Those are the type of people we're thinking of. And maybe you're a chairman or a secretary listening to us here, driving along in the car, going off to see your team this evening, and you're saying, I can pick out 2 or 3 guys in my club straight away that would be good GAA referees, good solid people that would know the rules, want to stay involved in the game and have the temperament to be a GAA referee. And look, I hadn't the greatest temperament, I can be a hothead too, but it's something that's schooled into you or taught to you as you referee. And I mean, one of the greatest experiences of my life was being a referee. I was there for 20 years. Chris, I know he loves it. He's to be very careful what he says in these interviews, but he's currently looking to get up along the ladder, get onto that championship panel, and those are the days you look for. But you got to start somewhere. And why not start with us? We're on the 23rd and the 25th end of the month. My buddy Aaron, the PRO of Clare GAA, has been brilliant. He's put a poster together in the last few days. It's been fired out in the socials. He's a QR code organised. He just whack onto that, fill in the form or send me an old email. I'm the referees administrator, .clare@ga.ie. But Derek, I know if you had the time, you'd go back to GAA refereeing yourself, wouldn't you?
You still have the time.
No, Jesus, he said 32 or 3 years old. I'm a little bit along with that.
And a heap of kids at home.
That's, yeah, as Joe Gary often says, a nation of young lads inside the house. But Chris, and I think it's important Rory mentioned that. I know there's people out there tonight saying, listening, Jesus, your man is actually talking to 2 referees and he spends half his time giving out. But it comes from a place of love, because I once did hold the whistle for a couple of years. And I'm just wondering, somebody that's starting out and they're wondering what supports will be in place for me. If I'm starting out on a lonesome Sunday morning, what supports are there for me? What have you seen, or what do you feel referees need in order to continue raising up that bar?
Well, the big thing I noticed was in the past when we started refereeing, you were thrown into juvenile games. Probably the worst place to be thrown into. Mommy and daddy on the sideline roaring in at little Johnny or whoever. Best thing we can do now, and Rory has taken it over in the last few years, is just getting the referee, put him into an old junior game. Mistakes are made, everyone learns. It's the best way to start. Then when your experience starts building, you get a little more confident. Start basing yourself around the referees, like I did in the past with Rory for football, Damien Fox for hurling. I gained experience and gained more confidence in myself and doing line and learning that way. And then when you have that experience, then you start looking for your umpires, if it's from your club, it could be your mother and father. I've seen referees in the national panel that still use mum and dad on the post. But just a good, solid group around you and have the experience there, and then you're one step further going forward.
Is it hard to find a balance in a game between being that talkative, communicative ref to players and still having that air of authority of, this is my decision, I'll talk to you for X amount of time, but after that I'm done explaining this is what's happening? Yeah,
I suppose the rule change came in there last year that everything was supposed to come via the captain, like a rugby rule. Now, most referees are doing a small bit of communicating. We still will if it's asked in the correct manner. But obviously, if a lad comes up roaring in your face, you're not going to have the time for it. You're just going to say, right, we're going via the captain here. But communication is there. At the end of the day, we're all out enjoying GAA and we're loving the game. But at the same time, we just need to realise that we're all here. We're trying to relax at the same time and enjoy the game. But if someone comes roaring in your face, you're getting nowhere.
Big games, being in that centre spot, like you, as a fan of the GAA, being that involved in a game, we know the scramble for tickets will start happening now ahead of that April 19th date, and whoever will get the whistle for it, you're in a prime spot, stuck inside in the middle of everything.
Yeah, that's the best seat in the house. The man beside me here has done a Club Ireland final inside Croke Park, but you do have the best seat in the house. If you're not playing, the next best thing is you're the man with the whistle. It's fantastic. As we know, Cusack Park across the road, it's going to be 20,000 plus people. Unbelievable scenes, and if you're the referee for that environment and that atmosphere, you're the luckiest man on the national panel, definitely on the day. Yeah. And then you're the envy of all your co-parts on the line. Everyone that wants to be that referee is there helping, but that's where they want to be.
Absolutely, and that's what they can be if they begin this course. Just once again, Rory, give us the details, the dates and the contacts if people are involved.
Yeah, the details are set. So we're the 23rd and 25th, 2 evenings down in Clare Abbey.
Of March.
Yeah, of March, end of the month there. So it gives people a chance to register, get involved. So we're in Clare Abbey, in Clare Castle, and Ger Hoy, he'll be helping us out. He'll give the course, and you can email me, referees administrator .clare@ga.ie, or get onto the socials. Everyone's on them. Aaron will have it flowing all weekend, and you just click the link, register your interests, and I'll be on to you.
Mighty stuff, lads. Thanks for taking the time to have a chat with us. I love you really, despite it all, and sure we'll talk again as the year goes on.
The love is there till the championship.
Mighty stuff. Thanks, lads.
How about that?
Now we turn our attentions to handball here next on Sideline View, where after a very busy weekend, it's continuing onwards this weekend again. Juvenile action in the main, and indeed a couple of adult semi-finals as well. So Orla Constantine with us to look ahead to it. Orla, plenty to get stuck into.
Yeah, loads to keep people entertained in the handball season again this weekend. There are plenty of All-Ireland semi-finals, most taking place Saturday. They're the juveniles, they'll be in action. I suppose our elite juvenile players of the county, we have 18 of those taking part in 11 of the 16 grades. So that's the boys and girls, with Munster playing Ulster on Saturday, Connacht playing Leinster the same day, all in the National Handball Centre in Croke Park. And the winners of both those games will meet in the finals on the Sunday. So a very busy weekend for those who are successful Saturday, and hopefully we'll have a few of them.
Absolutely, we'll run through them in a moment, but isn't it a fair sign of youth that it's a case of, come on, we'll get it all done the one weekend?
Oh, isn't it great to be young?
Absolutely.
And I suppose it's the one thing with that though is it's all played together. Everybody gets to see it. There would have been a time you'd have been brought and would have meant that Munster were travelling all the way up to Ulster this weekend, and God only knows where you might have to travel the following weekend. So I suppose it does take some of that out of it, and then that it's all there. There's no hiding or ducking or local referees or things like that could go either in your favour or against you on the day, depending on where things were held. So it gives a great boost and a great vibrancy then to get all the young people in the one place together. There's 3 courts in action, and people can go and see different games of different levels and ages, and it gives great encouragement to youngsters.
Brilliant. Bring us through the Clare hopefuls then.
Yeah, so in girls' actions we have under 14 singles Anna Madden, who's had a great year so far competing in tournaments that are 13 and under, and she'll be actually up against the girl Mina McBride, who won that under 14 singles last year, so that should be a cracker in the semi-final. The 14 doubles has Orla Flanagan and Samantha Vaughan from Tuna playing. 14 singles, Sinead Doyle also from Tuamgraney, and in 15 doubles, Ava McInerney, Tuamgraney, and Elaine Littleton from Tulla. And in the 16 doubles, Chloe Hannon of Kilkishen and Maisie O'Malley of Tuna pair up. And in the 17 doubles, Saoirse O'Brien of Tuamgraney and Jane Hogan of Kilkishen. So some of them are fairly experienced on the road, and you'll be hoping for a good result, but not easy at All-Ireland semi-final level. And in the boys, again, we go all the way from 14 to 17. In the 14 doubles, Irla Kelleher of Tuamgraney and Ross McInerney of Tulla. And in the 15 singles, Walter Moroney of Kilkishen. 16 singles, Jack Cahill of Clooney Quinn. The 16 doubles, Charlie Collins of Tuamgraney and Conor Littleton of Tulla pair up. And in the 14 doubles, Sean Garvey of Clooney Quinn and Killian Cummins of Tuna will pair up. And I suppose in the boys, there's a little bit of experience in that Jack Cahill would have reached the under 14 All-Ireland final. So he'd be hoping to emulate that again, at least at 16 level. And Charlie Collins last year would have paired with Sean McGee, and they would have won the 15 doubles. So he would be hoping to, with a new partner in Conor, going a step further in the 16 doubles this year would be a great achievement.
Fantastic. We'll talk adult in a moment, but just as you were listing out the clubs there, I think it's worth noting and giving good mention to the Tuna club, because we're kind of used to hearing about Tuamgraney and Kilkishen. They've been kind of real mainstays, but like for Tuna to be now featuring on this stage, they're now becoming among those elite as well.
Yeah, they are, and like they've always produced players along the way. I suppose they have a strong reputation there in the last couple of years of producing some girls, and like Isabel McInerney there would have been, I suppose, somebody for those girls to look up to, and she would have been partner in Claire Minogue last year in All-Ireland minor, and she, herself and Tara Lucas there would have been successful over the years. So they have a great tradition of bringing girls through, and now just a little bit of success will cement that for them and bring the rest of it on. And as you say, when they see it, the boys want to get in on the act as well too. So it's great to see that they have boys represented there at national level now as well.
Fantastic, yeah, and hopefully that progression continues. Take us through the adult then.
Well, I suppose centre stage on the Saturday evening, Dermot Nash is in action against Peter Function of Kilkenny, and that's at 6 o'clock on the show court and will be streamed as well as the kids' games being streamed. So that's a big game for Dermot. He's headed into the championship as number 1 seed. Got maybe a little bit of a scare in the first game the last day, but then settled down in his quarter final with Michael Hedigan. So Again, he'll know that he needs to be focused at All-Ireland semi-final level, but Peter Function, along with his brother, was last year's All-Ireland doubles winner. So Diarmuid won't be taking that for granted, and it'll be great that there'll be so much Clare support above that'll be able to shout him on at that hour of the evening. And then earlier on the Saturday, closer to home, we have 3 Clare players in the last 4 of the Ladies Junior C All-Ireland. So Ellen Collins will travel to Clare Galway to play Ava Nicadon, and locally in Tulla, Emma Considine of Clooney Quinn and Marie Long of Newmarket and Fergus will battle it out, where one of them will make it through to the All-Ireland final. And then the O'Brien sisters, who've been travelling on the road in opposite directions for the last couple of weeks, will both be in Croke Park in action on Sunday. So Orla is playing in the Junior All-Ireland semi-final, and Niamh is playing in the Junior B All-Ireland semi-final. So there'll be no easy game there for either of them, but they'll be there to support each other.
That's an interesting point you raise about Diarmuid having the support on the Saturday evening, and again it's an offshoot of everybody being brought to the National Handball Centre. Like you'd be hoping anyway that people that are on towards late afternoon will stick on and give him that bit of support that may not have been if, as you mentioned at the start, like if you were broken up into those regional venues.
Yeah, it is, and I suppose it's a great way of publicising the game and getting everybody together. As I said, to several people and yourselves over the last week, having so many Clare people above together last weekend definitely got some of them across the line. And while Diarmuid is always unable to be so focused, it's nice for him that when he's playing in Dublin to have a Clare crowd above there to support him, because he's a great supporter of all things handball.
Absolutely, no, and what he has done, it goes particularly in the history annals, that's for sure, in handball in this county. Orla, listen, thanks for looking ahead, and sure, we'll chat again on Monday to wrap things up.
Yeah, hopefully we'll have some good news along the way.
We turn now to local soccer here on Sideline View, where the FAI Junior Cup opening games dominate proceedings this weekend. Hopefully pitches and everything are back in full working order and we'll get all these games played. Jim Madden with us to look ahead to it. Jim, always an exciting time of year, I suppose, this first round.
It is indeed, sure. It's great for the clubs to be playing against teams from outside the county. Gives them a chance to get away from maybe the mundane league fixture list and that kind of thing. And it also gives them a chance to see where they stand in the whole football family, for want of a better word.
Before we talk about all those games, I think it's worth mentioning a big game that's happening on Saturday, Jim, in Frank Healy Park. It's the Jacko Ireland Munster Youth Cup semi-final at Newmarket Celtic versus Lakewood Athletic with a 1 o'clock start. Sure to be a huge occasion for the club, no doubt.
It will indeed. Newmarket have worked very hard over the last couple of years on their underage, and they're beginning to reap the rewards of that. This is a very good Newmarket youth team. Lakewood are from around the Ringaskiddy area of Cork. It's a club that's not in business as long as Newmarket, but they have about 800 members, I read there. So they won't be any pushovers. But you'd imagine that they've been at home should help Newmarket. They'll always have big support for their games, and I think they're good enough to advance to the final of this.
Very good. That is, as I say, a Saturday kickoff for that one. Then on Sunday, Jim, we have 6 games in the FAI Junior Cup, 5 in round 1, and there's a Clare Derby in round 2. Take us through them.
Well, in the first round, Avenue United are travelling away to Listowel. Listowel would be quite a decent side in Kerry. But I don't think Kerry football at this level is as strong as it used to be, and I think Avenue will be too good, and there is no doubt that Avenue over the last couple of years a little bit disappointed with their performances in the FAI Cup, and I think this year they will be all out to do a lot better and get to the closing stages. Newmarket, then, they're at home to Athay. Do you like the way I pronounce that? Athay are from the Desmond League. It's a lovely little village up there in the hills, but I think they're not in the same league as Newmarket. And Newmarket, unbeaten this season, are proving to be a very difficult side to beat. And I think Newmarket should win that with a little bit to spare. Then you have the Ennis Dons are at home to Tulla. Now, Tulla are having a fantastic season again. Last year they had a great run in the Cup and the League, and I think they're continuing that, and I think they will take care of Ennis Dons and advance to the second round there. Shannon Olympic then are at home to St Brendan's Park. That's at 2 o'clock. Olympic have had a difficult time recently because their pitch has been unplayable and they've had to move their fixtures around a bit. Jimmy Houlihan has done a good bit of work with them since last year, but you'd have to imagine that the Kerry side, who are in the Premier grade down there, might have a little bit too much. But I don't think they'll have it easy, and Jimmy will be very keen to try and get a good result here. Mount Shannon, then they're at home to Killarney Athletic. Now, away win here would be probably likely, as Killarney are quite a strong team. But Mount Shannon, for some reason, have always liked these competitions and have pulled off a few surprises in the past. And I wouldn't put it past them, but you'd have to kind of expect that Killarney might have a bit too much for them and could win there. And in the FAI Junior Cup second round, then you have Ferden Celtic at home to Bunratty. I would think that Bunratty have more experience than Ferden and are also playing reasonably well this season. So you'd have to imagine that they should win that. And then the Clare Cup, there's a second round game as well, Derek. Sporting Ennis at home to Fairgreen. Now you'd have to suggest that the Premier League side might be too good, but home advantage could swing that for Sporting Ennis. And I'd be inclined to stick my neck out and say that Sporting should have a home win. Shannon Town C then are at home to Ryan Rovers. I think the third division team could win that, as Ryan are struggling a bit. And the Ennis Dons are at home to Hermitage. Ennis Dons should be a lot stronger than Hermitage B, and they should win that. In the Clare Cup third round then, Shannon Town B are at home to Tulla United B. Tulla United B are a fairly decent side, and of course they have quite a number of their younger players. I would imagine that Tulla B should be capable of winning that. Bridge United then B are at home, or in the Premier League, the Bridge United are at home to Shannon Town. Bridge United really have to win this game if they want to fulfil their ambition of winning the league. They're a good 8 to 10 points clear of Shannon Town in the league table, and I think they're good enough to take the 3 points there. So a home win there for Bridge United. In the first division, Derek, the Celtic are at home to Connolly. Connolly, both teams are low near the end of the table, but Connolly appear to have it be slightly better and should win that, while Moher Celtic are at home to Shannon Hibs. Now, they have had some cracking games in the last while, and I think Hibs, while they're on a bit of a roll, will find the going tough down there in Moher. Corofin are playing Hermitage, but I gather that game could in fact be off because there has been a bereavement of some close members of the Hermitage family. And Poole are at home to Bridge United B. Poole, a decent enough side, should be able to beat the Bridge there. And in the third division, Avenue C are at home to Bridge Celtic. Well, you'd have to imagine that Bridge Celtic should win that. While Shannon Hibs B are at home to Bridge United C. Again, Shannon Hibs might have that little bit of an edge there. And in the Women's FAI Cup, Tulla at home to Creeves from the Desmond League. Tulla are quite a strong women's team. They train quite well. I've seen them there on their all AstroTurf and that, and I think Tulla will win that. While in the last game in the Women's League, Hermitage are at home to Moher. Well, you'd never be inclined to oppose Hermitage, as they have a long history of being involved in women's sport. And while Moher will give it a right lash, you'd think that Hermitage should win that, Derek. Absolutely.
Fairly comprehensive fixture list in across all the various competitions, and hopefully all going ahead as well to ease some of the headache, I would imagine, for Davy O'Grady as the fixture secretary. Jim, thanks very much indeed for that.
Thanks, Derek. And I have been asked by Mount Shannon to go up and see their game next Sunday in Scariff. So if the weather is like this, there's a good chance I'll appear in Scariff.
Best of luck with that. Thanking you.
Good luck, Derek. Good luck.
Time now for Greyhound Focus with Alan Troy.
Good evening and welcome to this week's Greyhound Focus. It was a good weekend for the Clare Brigade at Galway Greyhound Stadium last weekend. Barntick Tiger made it a winning start to his racing career for Mary Reedy from Barntick Clarecastle with a 29.53 victory in a novice 5-5. He's a homebred son of Dermana Bucko and Barntick Smokey. Colossal Journey made it 2 wins on the bounce with a 29.50 victory with Kilmaley and Ennis representation with Tom Nile, Faye Warren and Leona Ryan. He's a son of Grange U10 and Droopy's Lullaby. Blaze Dasher was in the winner's enclosure for Tony Brigdale from Ennis, recording 29.46 to claim his first career success. He's a son of Pestana and Speedy Bella. Tullabrack base trainer Colin Fitzgerald had Jasmine Coco in fine fettle as she recorded a career best with a 29.10 victory. This was career win number 5 for this daughter of Ballyhimmick in Jet and Wishful Alley. Johnny Burke from Ennis won the final race of the weekend with Sue's Jetty, a daughter of Dromana Bucco and Termana Jetty. Her winning time was 29.74. And from Limerick Greyhound Stadium, recent winners include Aqua Camellia for Tulla's Donica McNamara, a daughter of Dromana Bucco and Rockalong Aqua. She notched her first career success in 30.16. Snuggy Carson is the son of Grangeview 10 and Crutty's Act, and he claimed his fourth career success in 29.30 for Miles Cummins from the Market on Fergus. And Shanakine Sally had a 6-lengths victory for Parteen's Joe Collins in 29.52. And this was career win number 10 for this daughter of Malachy and Aaron's Sensation. That's all for this week, folks. Slán agus Bannock.
Alan, thanks for that. That's where we have to leave it for this week's Sideline View. Don't forget about our new show, Sideline View Review, where we will be reflecting and analysing all this weekend's action. That happens every Monday evening now from 6 o'clock. The West Wind is up next here on Clare FM. Enjoy the rest of your Friday evening.